The FIFPRO World XI has been an award that has represented the best players in world football, ranging from the goalkeeper all the way to the striker, voted by their peers. The best players throughout the calendar year are voted for to represent the best squad of 2025, or whichever year in which the award is being announced. Throughout the years, you've seen the likes of Ronaldo and Messi and Neymar dominate this World XI. And it's been a real accolade that has really signified how important and how valuable you are to your team. But unfortunately, this award in recent years, as many footballing awards have gone to be, have driven more controversy than admiration for the players in these awards. And the 2025 FIFPRO World XI is no different. The FIFPRO World XI dropped about yesterday at the time I'm recording this. And of course, you have a lot of players in there who we can laud and praise for the incredible year they have. 6 Paris Saint-Germain players. But then there are also a few players in there that I look at and I think, you're a bit lucky to get in here. We start off with the unsurprising names. Of course, you have the likes of Ousmane Dembele, Ballon d'Or winner. We can wax lyrical all we want about Ousmane Dembele in the past season. Won the Champions League, Ligue 1, Coupe de France, was an integral part of that Paris Saint-Germain resurgence at the start of 2025. Played in that false nine position and looked imperious for them throughout the year. And I don't think, if he's the Ballon d'Or winner, he's going to make it. Then you go out throughout the rest of the team. Nuno Mendes and Hakimi were incredible on the flanks for Paris Saint-Germain, offering that dynamism that not many fullbacks in world football are able to do for you. So it makes a lot of sense why both of them are in there, factoring as well that Nuno Mendes went on to win the Nations League. Vitinha in the midfield as well. That's also kind of parts and parcel. And Gianluigi Donnarumma, even though he's gone on to Manchester City now, his time at PSG cannot be ignored. So those players are pretty understandable. Of course, you add in Lamine Yamal, who for my money is the best player in world football right now in terms of pure talent and what he's able to produce on a football pitch. I don't think there's anybody who has a higher peak than him right now. So his inclusion in this team was always going to be guaranteed. The numbers are there, the performances are there, the big game persona, the big game personality, and the execution. Lamine Yamal has to be in this squad. But then you move away from those names, the names that everybody expects to be in there. And then you kind of move to the names that perhaps we didn't expect them in there, but once you read the names, it kind of makes sense. And the first name that falls under that category, in my opinion, is Virgil van Dijk. Now, I'm not saying this because I feel as though Virgil van Dijk is not a good defender or he didn't have a fantastic year with Liverpool. He definitely did. But I feel as though in a lot of these award ceremonies, Virgil van Dijk is always sniffed at. Always sniffed at. It feels as though they kind of go for the flashier defender or the defender who had a better year. But for me, Virgil van Dijk has been the best center back in world football for about the last six years or so. And of course, William Pacho partners him in the defense. And for me, William Pacho was the A side of that Paris Saint-Germain defense. Him and Marquinhos, Pacho was the better defender in my opinion. And I think you saw that in the game in the Club World Cup final when he was suspended and Marquinhos was left there with Balerdi. For me, William Pacho has been incredible, so he deserves to be in this side. And I was genuinely wondering whether he would be the sacrifice in that defense, because we've seen in previous years with this World 11, they'll kind of add 4 attackers or 4 midfielders, and then they'll maybe reduce it to 2 defenders. So I think William Pacho is well within his rights to be in this squad. Somebody, in my opinion, that should actually be an unsurprising, but I think it's half and half. And the other person, for me, the third person that I didn't expect him in this lineup, especially with his Ballon d'Or finish, Pedri Gonzalez. Look, I've made a whole video talking about how good I think Pedri Gonzalez is. And for me, he's the best midfielder in world football. I think it's pretty clear that he's the best midfielder in world football. Of course, Vitinha is a close second in my opinion, as of right now. I don't think Vitinha has the catalog. I can't say he doesn't have the CV because he won the Champions League last year, but I don't think Vitinha has done it long enough for you to put him in the same category as Pedri Gonzalez. I think Pedri's a more talented player. And just all in all, I think Pedri has a bigger impact on their team. Pedri Gonzalez being in there for me, it's a no-brainer. But we've seen with these awards that sometimes the people who are voting don't have brains. So for me, Pedri Gonzalez being in there should also be unsurprising. But I was surprised to see him in there considering how low he finished in the Ballon d'Or. But then from those players, those half and half players to the unsurprising players, you move on to the players that I just don't understand how they managed to get into this squad. And I think it continues the trend that we saw at the Ballon d'Or, especially with Cole Palmer. Look, Cole Palmer is an incredible player. And for me, I think after the first season he had with Chelsea, there was a lot of questions about whether, is his chain real? Can this guy actually do it in the big games, in the Champions League against the best teams? And we saw it at the Euros, we saw it in glimpses when he did come on. This guy is legit. And I think also you've seen it in the Champions League this season. You saw it at the Club World Cup. In the few games that he played in the Champions League this season, this guy is legit. We saw it against Paris Saint-Germain. And I think that game against Paris Saint-Germain, they're really trying to push this agenda as though the FIFA Club World Cup is an important competition. Look, I will tell it to you guys straight. This competition is meaningless. It is a meaningless competition. It is one of those competitions that if you win it, you sing to the heavens. Everybody must hear that you won the FIFA Club World Cup. You're the world champions. But if you don't win it, you don't care because it is a meaningless competition. And that is what it is. But FIFA is trying to push it down our necks and tell us this competition matters. And it matters so much that the best player at the tournament, which Cole Palmer wasn't even the best player, it was probably Moises Caicedo. The best player at the tournament is going to get into our World 11 because that's how much we rate this competition. It is a pointless competition. And even if you look away from the Club World Cup, if we want to look at Cole Palmer's performances in the Premier League, in the Conference League, in other competitions for Chelsea, Cole Palmer was pretty average last season. He had a fantastic August to January period, December period, but for the rest of the season, the guy didn't do anything. I mean, there was a game in which he played against Liverpool. He scored a goal, and I think that was his first goal in almost 5 months. Yet this is a guy that made it into the World 11. Then the final player that I don't really understand why they're in this team, Jude Bellingham. Look, I will tell you guys now, I am not the biggest fan of Jude Bellingham. I will try my best to be objective in the things I speak about whenever Jude Bellingham is spoken about on this channel. But I will tell you for a fact now, from the beginning, from the jump, I am not a huge fan of this guy. Do I think he's a fantastic player? Yes. Do I think he's one of the best in the world? Yes. Do I think he's as good as they talk about him? Not at all. I don't think he's better than Pedri. I don't think it's ridiculous if somebody said Vitinha is better than him. I don't think it's ridiculous if somebody said João Neves, the likes of Phil Foden, Cole Palmer are on the same level. Because for me, that is his level. But the way they speak about him, you think as though this guy is the clear runaway best midfielder in world football. For me, that's just not the case. That's just not the case whatsoever. Last year, Jude Bellingham and Vinicius Jr. alike, of course, Vinicius was much worse than him. Somehow, Vinicius sneaked into the Ballon d'Or himself. But Jude Bellingham last year was a complete and objective average season from Jude Bellingham. Especially considering the season he came off of. For anybody to look at last season and look me in my eye and tell you that Jude Bellingham was in the best 11, as in he was in the top 3 midfielders in world football, such that he made it into a squad ranking the best 11 in world football. They are lying to you. They are lying to you. And that's when we then go on and talk about the people who missed out. João Neves was miles better than Jude Bellingham last season. Miles better. Jude Bellingham suffered with injuries. He played with a shoulder injury throughout the year. He didn't really have much impact in games that he needed to have an impact. Him and Real Madrid in totality looked lost. They looked lost. Yet somehow this guy still manages to find his way into this team. He made his way into the top 30 of the Ballon d'Or. I don't know how he found his way in there. Genuinely, I don't know how. Vinicius as well, I don't know how. But I guess when you play for Real Madrid, these sort of things are going to happen. But then we talk about João Neves. You talk about Fabian Ruiz. You look at the people like Salah, Rafinha, Mbappe, who didn't make it into this squad. Look, I'm a Barcelona fan, and I will tell you straight up, Kylian Mbappe is not playing at the level that we saw at Paris Saint-Germain. But the numbers do not lie. And there has not been a single player in world football who has the numbers that Kylian Mbappe has. So for you to sit there and act as though Jude Bellingham had a bigger impact on Real Madrid's season than Kylian Mbappe, I don't know what to tell you. Kylian Mbappe is the only reason Real Madrid finished that season with any ounce of respect. Kylian Mbappe is the only reason Real Madrid beat Manchester City in the playoff round or whatever you want to call it. Kylian Mbappe was the only shining light in Real Madrid's season last year. Yet he doesn't make it in ahead of Jude Bellingham. As for Rafinha, honestly, if I speak about Rafinha as in depth as I wanted to speak about him, this video would be 1 hour long. This guy continues to get disrespected every single time for that season. People act as though it was a fluke. He's not that good of a player. We cannot allow a player like Rafinha to win big awards or to be in the spotlight. I don't really know what any of these things mean because I've seen Jorginho finish in the top 3 in the Ballon d'Or. I've seen N'Golo Kante being propped up for a Ballon d'Or charge. I've seen Dani Carvajal being propped up for a Ballon d'Or charge. It doesn't really matter the name. If a player is good, give them their praises, give them their flowers. And Rafinha was ridiculous last season. He was robbed of the Champions League best player. They gave it to Ousmane Dembele. I don't know why. Just because you win the Champions League doesn't mean you're the best player in the competition. They robbed him of a top 3 finish in the Ballon d'Or, which in my opinion it should have been a shoo-in. It should have been a shoo-in. I know Vitinha won the Champions League. He won everything he could have possibly won, but he was not a better player than Rafinha last year. He was not a better player than Rafinha last year. So these sort of things, when you look at these World 11s or these awards that they give out to these players, and these shows, these useless shows that are run by these organizations, it really makes you think, who are these guys watching these games? Genuinely, are they watching these games? For you not to have someone like Rafinha, for you not to have someone like Mbappe or even Mohamed Salah over the likes of Palmer and Bellingham, who did next to nothing last year. But that's part and parcel of what you're gonna get with these award shows nowadays. It seems like it's more of a narrative-driven, media pushing, it feels more like a propaganda rather than an actual moment to really appreciate the best players that we've seen in world football, regardless of how big or small their name is. And it's a shame, because there have been a lot of great players this season who I feel should have gotten a lot more credit than they did. Luckily enough, we had a few players in there, like I mentioned, with Pedri, with Van Dijk, with Pacho, who I thought would be completely and utterly sniffed at over the likes of more bigger names or brighter, more flashy names. But luckily, they got their credit. But there are other players in this team, too. It feels like, once again, the media is just trying to push a narrative that they really shouldn't be doing. Now, of course, I'm not going to act like these last few months didn't happen. I've been gone for a long time. I know, and I apologize. If I was to tell you why, I couldn't really place my finger on it. There's no real definitive reason. There's no real concrete, absolute reason. I'd say if I was to summarize it into a simple sentence, I just lost the love. I lost my joy. I lost my joy. But as Isaiah Thomas said once, I got my joy back. I got my joy back. And ultimately, I think really what it was is I didn't really enjoy making videos. And I think it's because I got caught up in a whole host of things that really shouldn't matter. I do this because I love it. I talk about football because I love football. I discuss football because I love discussing football. And at the end of the day, whether it's 2 people that watch these videos, 200, 2,000, 20,000, I will be here because I love football. And those of you who will be here to join me, you're always welcome. So don't worry, I'm back, and I'm back for good. Because at the end of the day, this is a passion project. I love football, and I wanted to create a community to be able to do that and, converse with somebody about it on a consistent basis. So I'm going to continue doing that. Whether we get incredible numbers or not, I love doing this, and I'm going to keep on doing it. So let me know what you guys thought about the FIFPRO World XI. Were you surprised by some of the names? Were there some other names that I didn't mention that you thought should have been in the 11? Or do you just not care? Ultimately, I don't really care about these awards because I feel like they're all just propaganda pushing. But this year in particular, I really wanted to discuss. So let me know all of that and a whole lot more, and take care of yourselves.